I can't even get myself together.
Hello,
Oh,
everybody.
hello.
Welcome to what I want to call it a slide through the gate Tuesday. We're going to be talking about taking your time in just a moment. Roll that beautiful beam footage.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. I can't even get it together. I can't even get it together. Whew.
This is one of the most special Tuesdays that we've ever had. This is a first on this show. So let me be the one to rub it in. Okay. Usually, for those of you who are used to watching us from seasons one on into seasons two, I'll scurry on through the gate. I'm trying to get myself together. I'm all over the place. But for the first time, it is Billy Wroe, just with
Ah,
the tomfoolery all behind the scenes. It was not me. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. We're here. We're whole. You okay, Billy? How you doing?
I'm good. It's been an amazing Tuesday, but my goodness, I've never been so pressed for time in my life. So a very fitting subject tonight. Taking your time. Yes, I'm taking my time. Woo! Lord,
Something like that. Something like that little ball head flustered and stuff.
yes, yes.
Oh goodness. So wait, I'm curious to know what came to mind for this one for you. This wasn't one. I don't recall us talking about this one before you
That's
mentioned
because we talked about it so long ago.
it. Okay.
The I mean, I think we talked about this topic in season one. That's how long ago the conversation was.
Okay.
Hey, what's going on, casual? So for me, when I think about take your time, what that is really taking back your authority to allocate your time as you see fit.
Mm.
Um, and so, as I was thinking more deeply and trying to reconnect with the conversation that we had, I was thinking about how we we sometimes unintentionally give our time to people and things, that when it's people that wouldn't prioritize us the same, and when it's things that don't truly add value to our life and our journey. And so when I think about take your time, I think about taking that authority back, getting your bandwidth back, to really allocate it in a way that is going to enhance, your life, your lifestyle, the relationships that you have, that those are going to be much more deeper relationships, than just surface level. So for me, that's when I started thinking about take your time, that is what immediately came to mind for me, was the allocation of my time and the black holes that I have thrown my time into in the past. How about for yourself?
When I saw this, I thought about, I think it's kind of just like a different facet of what you described. When I thought about this, I thought of a lot of the time our inability to be able to visualize what our time means.
Mm,
There's when you talk about allocating your time and prioritizing, which is basically what I heard you saying. I couldn't agree with that more, but I think that even if we have a list of priorities or people, specific people, because there are a lot of the times tasks attached to or associated with people that we know and love, that's one thing. But then if you really can't take and put some type of visual identity on the different spaces of your time throughout the day, throughout the week, quarters, or whatever, you can still have a lot of time that's lost and that's going nowhere. It's kind of like not really having a visual representation of what we do with our money. Okay, we all know
right.
how to think about money in that way, so that every penny is accounted for in certain spaces and places. And if there are any gaps, we make sure that we put a limit on what's filling that gap, how much is going there. But do we really think about our time that way? I don't think we do. And so that's what this whole topic that's what came to mind for me. Being able to have visual representations of different blocks and spots of time and how we're using that time. Once we were to allocate it, as you say, then how what's a system or a way that we would come up with where we're cognizant, connected, and aware of how we use that time and what blocks where we don't have something designated there, how we're allocating that.
Yes. That you said something super powerful that I have never thought of. I was today years old when I heard the when I heard
Yeah.
like the visual representation of our time.
Yeah.
And to even go another level deeper to that, the only visual representation that we have of our time is ourself, our life force, our physical presence in this world. And this is how we are able to measure time is that, hey, I started off as an infant, I grew a little, I learned how to walk, I grew a little more, learned how to run. And then all of a sudden now I'm in my 40s and things are falling apart. I need to tune up. So, but that is the only way that I have always looked at time. And I think about also having children where time moves so much faster. It's like I was
Yeah.
talking to somebody the other day and I was like, oh, yeah, I met you when my son was born. Well, my son is 20 years old now. And so
Yeah.
I've known this person that I'm talking to for 20 years because I met them literally. My son was born within a week of the time in which I met them. And so it's like the way we measure time or the way we see time is so much easier for me in finances to see it in a budget. Okay, the numbers are the numbers. I added them all together. This is this, this is that. And then if you don't have all the money, your bank account notifies you that you don't have all the money. But from the visual representation of time, man, that's powerful right there. I love that. And I'm going to explore the mess out of that later this week.
I'm very visual. So that's something I have just around my office. There's several different huge dry erase calendar, a couple different dry erase boards, color coding. Yeah, that's like a thing for me to be
Right.
able to actually see where things are going. Because it's again, if we think of this in terms of money, when you decide that you want to do something big, the first thing you start doing is not only do you take stock of all of the little personal, if you're a coffee person, if you're a fast food person, whatever your thing may be, we know to take stock of those things. And then we also start to look at visually different places where we could pull pennies to put together whatever it is that we're trying to do. Think of time exactly the same way. And if we start to think of it that way, then it actually adds or makes it feel like there's more time in a day because
Right.
now you take stock of, oh man, that was 30 minutes blown. And I tend to do that. Our patterns with time are pretty much the same as with money, they're habitual. So you'll
Right.
start to notice that every day I blow at least 2 hours. Now I don't do it all at one time, so I don't think about it that way. But and then every week I may, or every Wednesday, you can have a particular day because of the way the appointments fall or things may go. But I always encourage my clients to think about their time in that way. You'd be surprised at how much more we could get accomplished. Forget just about a day within quarters or weeks, or those of us who deal with our businesses and things like that, we tend to look at blocks of time further out and in bigger chunks. So you can
Right.
really maximize that if you're looking at it that way.
Right. Well, I remember when we were having a conversation about the book where we were talking about, okay, this is this book, but the next book and the next book, and having such a vast uh, perception on how far out the other projects that I wasn't allocating energy to in that moment, but I was very cognizant in the sense of, hey, this is what I'm doing in this book, but there's two more books to follow it. And the other thing when I now that we're into the conversation, and by the way, if you would like to join us up here on the stage, do not be shy to get on this link right here in the chat. Jump in, share your thoughts, share your comments, share your wisdom or your story with us. Jump in. But going back, I as we're diving into this conversation, I'm also now resonating with your time as take your time thinking about when I was a kid and I'd be rushing through something and I'd be
Yeah.
hurrying through something, and the lack of quality that was there when I was in a rush versus the ability that I had to pay attention to detail when I took my time and was patient. And so now thinking about this, take your time, I hear my mother's voice, I hear my father's voice, I hear my mentors' voices in the sense of, Billy, take your time. It's not going anywhere. Take your time and do it right the first time. So there's
Ooh,
this
yeah.
patience aspect that we have to, I don't want to say have to, I hate that, I hate telling people what they have to do, but there's this patience aspect that comes into play in our time and what we're allocating, and sometimes just being patient enough to allow a process to develop, because those habits that you were talking about with our time, where it's 2 hours in a day that we waste, but we don't realize where those leaks are at in our time, are in the prioritization of our time. I think about when now going, I don't even know how long I've been going to the gym in the morning, but since I've started going back to the gym in the morning, it's become a pattern for me to where I'll go to sleep, I'll wake up without an alarm, 4:49, get up by 5 o'clock, get out the door to the gym, work out for an hour. Like, it is the allocation of that time. And I could easily say, well, I was wasting that time sleeping because normally I'm asleep at that time. But I really wasn't wasting that time sleeping. I was wasting that time on the back end going to sleep late at night. So
Mhm.
where I didn't necessarily need to be up because I wasn't doing anything extra productive with the time at 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, I didn't need to be up at that time. I took those hours back from that time to go to sleep a little bit earlier. And now I wake up within my normal rhythm of waking up between 5 to 6 hours of sleep. And I wake up effortlessly. I'm not groggy. I get out, I go on, I work out, and I come back. And now the health benefits of that are already starting to kick in. Like,
Mhm.
metabolism is through the roof right now. I'm already hungry right now. So when we end, I'm going to get me something to eat.
Yeah, and it's that you mentioned. I think that the getting up to work out is such a great point, because once we start to create a pattern of being able to visualize our time, we're not only maximizing the time that we use, but because we're habitual creatures, creatures of habit, we are teaching ourselves, our person. It's like we're taking that circadian rhythm and adapting it. We're telling it what we want it to do and how we want it to run. And
Mm,
our body gets to a space where it responds. This is its new normal. And you'll actually take on whatever it is you teach yourself your flow should be. So there are so many different things, because we allow ourselves to just flow with what we like, flow with what we want, flow with what's going on around us, that we don't understand that when we take that passive approach in certain situations in our life, then our bodies, our minds, our spirits, our soul adapt to this wayward way of being. When if
right,
we actually took the time to visualize what it is that we're doing, why it's important, and then consistently create it. It's going to be hard in the beginning when you're not used to it, because you're not used to it. But get into the habit, have the discipline to continue to do things in a way that is going to be beneficial to your overall goals, beneficial to your overall health, emotionally, spiritually. When you start to do these things, after a while, you're teaching your body, you're teaching your mind that this is the pattern that we wanted to follow. And then that after a while, you're on autopilot with it. You just wake up ready to go to the gym. Whereas at first you used to have to set your clock and make that an effort. Now it's less of an effort, because you've trained your body, you've trained your mind and everything, that this is the way that we're going to flow. And this is the way that we're going to do things. And it's a challenge to get to that space where I say autopilot kicks in, but it's so very worth it. It's so very worth it. And then to your point, when you mentioned these different behaviors and how having the patience to go through them, not only the patience to go through whatever the journey is, all right, but also the expectation that as you patiently go through this journey, it is not going to be what you thought it was. There's going to be
right.
lots of different curveballs, there's going to be lots of different hurdles, there's going to be times where you have to regroup, phone a friend. Expect those things. I think so often, I don't care how many times we fall down, we get up and expect never to fall again.
Right.
No, keep the Bactine and the Band-Aids right there because you're gonna be right. Get the Neosporin, get all of that because
Right.
you're gonna go back through it again. So I think it's important to anticipate these things so that the impatience doesn't kick in and then you go back to what you're used to before you're able to kick into that autopilot mode.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny because when you're talking, I had to look up what the thought of the day was today because I knew it had very much to do. It had a lot to do with what you were saying. It says we can do anything we grow our mind into, and that is what developing habits are. It's teaching your mind on what the new structure is going to be, and the
Yeah.
mind will flow. It may resist initially because it has its initial structure that it has to kind of detach from, but once it decides that it's detached from that and what the new flow is, the mind will help you flow through that, where you'll be like, oh, you know what? I haven't worked out today. Oh, you know what? I need to go to bed. I'm sleepy. Oh, you know what? I need to make sure I'm drinking water. Whatever it may be that you're doing, your mind will continually draw you back to that routine. And really,
Absolutely.
for me, taking your time back is about, I think that's the word that I want to put at the end of this is take your time back, is about being willing to assess the routines that you have and their impacts not just to the greater world but their impacts directly to you. One of the things, and we've talked about this often, one of the things that I have done to take my time back is that when I receive bad news, whether it's bad news about somebody getting hurt, somebody passing away, somebody losing a job, I take a day before I respond and engage with that, because
Yeah.
it is other than that, I run the risk of telling my routine that hey, it's okay that anybody can come in with an interruption anytime they want, and they can completely throw your day off track. And no matter what you have going on, you're going to lose focus on that to focus on this. And it's not that I don't care any less about the people. I don't care any less about the situation. It is something that I have done to create that boundary when it comes to my time. And so by having that, when you think about that being like the worst case scenario, when everything else, like if it's not death, nobody's injured, nobody lost a job, really everything else is kind of trivial, unless maybe it's mental health. Everything else is trivial. So
Yeah.
because everything else is trivial, now I don't feel that sense of guilt when it's like, hey, I don't want to give my time to that. Period. Like I don't want to give my time to that, not just today, not just tomorrow, but not ever. And I don't feel bad about that. So when having that authority to take your time back really is about setting yourself up for the routines that you feel benefit you, so that then you can later allocate the remaining time to other routines or the routines of others or other routines that you want to allocate that time to.
I
So
heard, I
I
heard,
feel
I hear you when you say that. I mean, it just brings to mind, it brings to mind how our culture, the way it is today, our culture is built on a foundation of meaningless distractions. And
mm,
there's a small, very, very small percent of people who are above that frequency. And I mean, I'm not gonna go super deep into it. There's so much I could say about this. But if we're talking about just from a spiritual perspective, one of the greatest tools of the enemy is disconnection and distraction. And there are, to show you our culture is to a point where the average person cannot right now, without even thinking about it, they cannot go through an entire 8-hour workday without looking or checking their phone. And we're not talking about doctors for the ER or gynecologists who might get a call to deliver a baby. We're not talking about that. That's not what we're talking about. But we're to the point where our phones just have to be for us to check and look, and how focused and intentional could one be if you allow yourself through every for your mind to be accessible to something else in everything that you do all throughout the day. I challenge, since we're talking about taking our time back and visual representations of what we do with our time, I challenge everyone that's watching this, and even if you catch it on the replay, just do an experiment for the day. And every time you look at or touch your phone, mark it down and see how many notches you have at the end of the day. Now, if that's what you're doing all day, somebody, well, I'm multitasking. Yeah, whatever. We can all multitask. But just think about that. How focused could you be on what you're doing if you add up how many times you did that through the day? That amount of time is allocated on something that's trivial and nothing. A cat slapping a man, or you know what I'm saying? Somebody doing whatever the do dance is,
Right.
or whatever your thing is. It gets somebody sent something about social justice. Somebody got shot somewhere, whatever. It's always something. But we're so distracted just as a culture, and that's become normal. So when you talk about something like, no, that's not of value with my time for me, and I unapologetically choose not to care about that today or ever, that's huge. Because as a culture, we don't allow ourselves to create those types of barriers and boundaries for our time.
Right.
We make
Exactly.
it okay. We justify just chucking away time like that.
Right. I think about it, and it's funny because I have a good relationship with my mom, but I think about people who don't have a good relationship with their mother, and they're like, "Well, that's your mother, that's your mama," and
Prioritize.
I'm really hoping there's something else that you're going to add to the end of that sentence to make me change my mind, but it's
Like, what's
probably nothing.
that was the subject, what's the predicate? I need to know the rest
Right.
of
Exactly.
the rest of the sentence, please.
So it's interesting because you're right. We have a culture where there is an expectation of allocation of our time.
Hmm.
Like almost, I think if we go through like the progression of the of technology and telecommunications,
Yeah.
there was the home phone. You called, I wasn't there. It rang and rang and rang. Then
Yes.
they invented the answering machine. You called, it rang a couple of times. The answer machine came on, and if I was there, I listened to who it was, and then I might pick up, I might not.
Right. I remember those days.
Then they gave us the pager, and it was like, okay, now you're starting to get into my time
Yeah.
because now I'm not by the phone, so obviously I'm doing something different. I'm doing something different, and I won't know that you called. You won't be able to get in touch with me until I get back home. And now I have this device that pages, and then you put 911 in it. And then I call after I spend 25 cents to call you, actually 20
I
cents
was about
to
to
call
say the
you.
payphone. You know that was what it is.
Right. I'm calling you like, hey, I'm about to give you this number. Call me back at this number. Now I'm waiting for the payphone to ring. Like it was a very interesting progression in telecoms that brought us to where we are today, where we carry our phones with us, like you said, 24/7.
Yeah.
Where almost now, even when you look at how they are adding the wallet, the currency component
Yeah.
to the phone, like,
Yeah.
oh, you don't even need your wallet, you just need your phone.
That's it.
Nah, because if I forget my phone, I want to make sure I still have some money. But
Mhm.
the transition between all these things has been a constant battle of gleaning and moving in and taking over portions of our time, to where now if people call your cell phone and you don't answer, they are upset at you, like, I called you, you didn't answer.
Mhm.
Okay, well, did I called you back, does that not count for anything? Obviously, if I didn't answer, either I didn't want to, I don't have to have a reason other than I don't want to, or I was doing something. And so it's very interesting to just look at how that has taken place and how that has leaked over into our culture in other areas. And when I say our culture, I don't mean like Black culture. I just mean the human culture.
No, exactly. Exactly. That's just the way that things are now. And I'm one of those types of people. Me and my mother go back and forth with that because she allows the fact that she has a cell phone to keep her accessible to people when she doesn't feel like it. I say, hey, that's what voicemail and text is for. If somebody calls you and they miss you and it's super important, then they'll go ahead and text. Typically, that's what I get.
Right.
If it's not important and they call me and they miss me, sometimes I get a message. Other times I won't. I can see a missed call, but if it's important, they'll say, "Hey, I called you such and such. I need you to call me when you can." My mother has the hardest time letting that phone ring and knowing that's Tony. I gotta answer. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. You could be in the shower. You could have a boo boo. You could be doing anything, you know. And she just, well, I'm not, but he doesn't know that. Or you could just not,
Right.
because with her, it's like she doesn't have the right to not feel like it. I don't feel like a call right now. I want to take an hour to myself and just watch whatever it is that she's watching. She doesn't feel like she has the right to do that. But I think that in a lot of instances, the culture has made it so that we've all bought into, or many of us have bought into, because the average person has a phone, you're obligated. It's an obligatory thing to be
Right.
accessible to people, even when you don't want to be. And when you allow that to be the way in which you flow, what are you sacrificing in your own journey and in your own life beyond children, beyond, forget all about that, personally? What are some things that you're trying to accomplish personally, ways in which you're trying to grow, ways in which you're trying to expand that are playing a back seat to that culture of this crazy intrusive accessibility that we allow people and their stuff to have to our lives and what it is that we're doing? And I say people and their stuff because a lot of the people calling are bringing their stuff, whatever
Right.
that's, and I'm not saying that it's negative necessarily. It's just stuff that has nothing to do with you, and you could be doing something different with your time with that if you even thought about it that way. But I think recognizing that as a boundary, an intrusion on what you
Mm.
actually could be doing would make us probably think about it differently. With me, I don't even, when it's time for bed, I turn my phone off and it's on the other side of the room. I turn it
Mm.
completely and totally, it's not off, but I turn it completely and totally down, vibrate nothing. It's on the other side of the room. Turn over. So I
Right. Don't light up my room or nothing.
it's turned down, put over on the table by the door, and I'm on the other side of the room in the bed, phone nowhere near me. And the next time I'll get it is in the morning when I wake
Right.
up, unless I wake up at some ridiculous time to work like I usually do, but that's completely different story. We'll talk
Well,
about that.
you bring up a really good point, because when you say what gives them the right, in using the specific word intrusion,
Mhm.
to intrude, when I when I think of the word intrusion, I think of somebody just walking in my house. You ain't invited. You just walking in my house, gonna sit on my couch, change the channel from what I'm watching to watch what you want to watch.
With some chicken in your hand, right?
Right. And greasy fingers, no napkin, wiping your hands on my couch.
On my remote. What? You got the thumbprint with the chicken on my
But when you ask what are we giving up, we're essentially putting ourselves on standby.
Yeah.
And like you said, we are not the I can't stand
Right.
just
Not the chicken.
we are
Oh yeah.
we are not being called for any particular emergency. And I liken it to a conversation I was having regarding the fact that we only have one car in our household, and we share the one car in our household. Um, and somebody was trying to tell me, well, what if there's an emergency? You need to have two cars because you might have an emergency because you have a kid. And if there's an emergency, you want to make sure you have a car. And I was like, I mean, if there's an emergency, we'll handle the emergency the way we handle the emergency. I mean, we ain't gonna sit and wait for the car to come back if that's what you need. If that's what you're talking about. But at the end of the day, um, just like I wouldn't allow that person to prioritize for my budget to buy another car, pay insurance, pay fuel for another vehicle that's probably going to sit there 85% of the time, I'm not going to allow you to come in and hijack my time. I struggled with that a lot in corporate America when I first got into corporate America, because I was only used to having conversations in business about business. If we're not talking about business, then why are we talking?
That
That's
part.
that's where I was at when I first got into corporate America, and I've kind of learned to like, okay, there's some times where you can kind of go off the beaten path, but for me, it's about coming back to why we're here. We're here to talk about business. Great, I can know a little bit more about you, maybe connect with you on a deeper level, but at the end of the day, we got to get this business done. The business comes first. Our social time comes second to that. And so when I think about again time, it is something that I have for a good amount of time now been very protective of. Even when before I had a pager, when I just had a phone in the wall with a long cord, uh, even when I had that, people would be like, "Oh, don't get off the phone yet, Billy. Hey, I'm getting ready to go to bed. I'm tired." No, you can't get off the phone with me. I'm not sleepy yet. Okay, well, I'm gonna go to sleep on this phone because, like I just said, I'm tired. And then, like 4 minutes later, you hear that. Remember when the phone used to go?
Yes. When you look back in the day when you could tell somebody talk to tone and it was really a tone there. Yeah.
Right?
You go talk to tone. Can't do that
Yeah.
now.
I was like, yo, I'm when I'm saying I'm going to bed, I'm prioritizing the fact that I need rest because you're not going to be with me in my classes tomorrow when I'm struggling to comprehend, struggling to take notes, getting in trouble at home because I fell asleep in class. You're not going to be here for that. So prioritizing me. What is it that you think um, causes us? Because you were saying that your mother feels like she's obligated
Yeah.
to answer, to respond. What do you think it is about? I don't want to say people like that. What do you think it is about us inherently that causes us to feel obligated to respond or to allocate time? And it doesn't have to be the phone, but just to allocate time to people as they deem fit.
I think a lot of it begins with the individual. I think a lot of what we put out is beliefs that we hold true for ourselves. I don't think we think about it that deep. So, for example, if you're someone who says to yourself, you know what, I really hate to wait. I don't like when people make me sit around waiting. If you're my ride and I tell you 10, I want you to be there at 10. If that's what you believe, you hold that true for you, and that's something that bothers you, and you're a considerate person, then your mind may say, well, you know what? I don't like to wait, so I'm not going to make somebody else wait.
Mm-hmm.
It could be where people rationalize their usage of time and their allocation of time based on what they might want from others, not understanding that, well, that doesn't fit every situation. That's all relative. You know what I'm saying? It's not a one size fits all thing. And so because I know, just using my mom as an example, because I know how considerate she is and how she thinks about other people's needs. She thinks about their needs the same way. She's one of those treat people the way you want to be treated type of people. And
Golden
so
rule.
that goes into everything. And so it's hard for me because that's in the makeup of who she is, and when she's dealing with people, she's giving people the same standard of care that she would like. It's hard for me to tell her that all that's fine and good, but he can wait till after you wake up from a nap if that's what you want to do. So I think that the short answer to it is that I think in those situations we see people and treat people the way in which we would want to be treated, and sometimes that's at the detriment of what we're trying to do when you're talking about an overall big picture. I think that's one part of it. Then I think the other part of it is we're socialized to function in this way. Think
Mm,
about it. Think the way I think about that is I think about this. If and when it comes to the masses, let's just think of the masses. If you're a puppet master and you got a bunch of people on strings, and you know that you're going to want to move the herd from this place to the next, you'd have to create a culture, a way of thinking, and a way of being that's automatic. So that when you pull this string, then you know when I pull this, they're going to go there. And that's where I want them to go. So I think that all of this is by design. I think it's all by design. If you're a spiritual person and you understand the construct of what's going on and how things are going, the culture of being distracted, the culture of feeling guilt for actually prioritizing what's going to give you complete and total autonomy over your mind and everything else that you own, that is of you. The culture is such that we're connected to things more outside of ourselves than the things internally and within ourselves, and we can be easily manipulated and herded in any direction because as a culture this is what we do. Now, some people, if you get it you get it, if you don't you don't, but I think that's another aspect of it too. So I think it's very individualized, but then I think it's very intentional, and it's a cultural thing, and it makes it so that we can be manipulated and pulled in the ways that we need to be when those times come.
Mm. No, I do agree with the manipulation aspect. Um, man, there's so much, so much.
I didn't want to, but I could not, you know.
It there. I think about all the little games, and I went through this stage where I was just downloading. I'd see an ad for a game, and I'd download it, and I'd be playing the game, and I'd download it, and I'd be playing the game. And all these games are quote unquote free, but all these games come at the expense of your time. And
Yes.
time is not free.
And they're habit forming.
Yes.
That is intentional.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I have a show that's coming up on the Grind to Find. Dave Sabell, he is an IT, I mean, he's an IT whiz, Dave is. And we actually had a conversation where I asked him about the intentionality of the way in which these things are created. If he would agree that that intentionality is there, and from his perspective as a creator of these things for consumers, what exactly that means. I'm not going to get into all of that, but that is like a thing. That is not by accident that these games and things keep us preoccupied like that. Ooh, I'm excited.
You know, I'm excited.
We got somebody in the studio with us. We have Miss Rachinda Pickens.
You want to bring her up?
Come on down. Come on down. Miss Pickens, Miss Rachinda Pickens.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you, girl. How you doing?
I'm good. Do y'all want to see my messed up face, or we good with just audio?
Hey, you know, I think you're beautiful. So you come through with all your golden goodness, girl. We ain't worried about it.
Put that light on us, girl.
Hey.
I'm sitting up here thinking you gonna have on a purple mask or something.
No,
or
wait a minute.
Gorgeous.
I've been on Nana duty, and I've been trying to get on StreamYard because I'm like, this is good. This topic is good. And I'm listening. And I'm up here going through, and I'm like, okay, I got it.
Yes, girl. I'm glad to have you. What would you want to share with us?
Man, y'all talking about time. That's crucial. And I heard you ask the question about basically why is it that, and you know me, I mess up some stuff, but it was kind of like why do we feel obligated to take certain calls and to do certain things when you're looking at the time, and I had to ask myself that, because at one time I would take calls and all kinds of stuff. And I kept thinking my problem was because I didn't want people to feel like I didn't want to be bothered. But it took so long for me to realize my time is my time, and you can't get time back, to the point where I had to learn to stop explaining to people why I was not taking my call, even though they might look at you like, well, you got all this extra time, because they have no idea all the other stuff that you're doing. And you all made a good point. I think, Taralyn, you were speaking about, if we look at time like money, oh my gosh, if we looked at time like money, some of us wouldn't take no calls, because you would be calculating. You'd be like, ching, 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 ching. You're thinking, this ain't doing nothing for me.
Right.
So, yeah, it's good. I mean, my thing is this topic here, everybody need to really listen to it and take it in, because we all waste some time on unnecessary stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Can I ask you a follow-up question to that? How much do you, or if you even feel that our desire to answer the phone or answer people when they're reaching out to us when you said you felt like you didn't want people to feel like you didn't want to be bothered, how much of that do you feel is also connected to the alienation aspect that comes when, okay, I've called them 5 times, they ain't answering, I ain't calling them no more. And so we go from being like popular and people having demands on our time to unpopular, where we feel exiled and nobody has a demand on our time because nobody wants to interact with us. How much do you feel like that played within your playground of trying to figure out, should you answer or should you allocate time or not?
I think for me, it wasn't a matter of being alienated. I think for me, back then, it was just kind of, you're not really knowing that your time is that valuable to the point where you're giving it and giving it and giving it. And then all of a sudden you grow up and you realize as much as we value other people's time, that they're not valuing my time, to the point where I had to finally realize, wait a minute, Richenda, some folks might just be calling you not just to check and see how you're doing. They just might be calling you because they want to dump a bunch of stuff on you. And my thing is, it's nothing wrong with that, but I decide when I want you to dump your stuff on to me. And
Trash pickup is on Mondays.
Well, not for her, because she off on Monday. She don't do nothing on Monday. Everybody knows about Chenda's Mondays if you know her.
but it took a while for me to get to that place where I decide this is my time. And so once you make that decision of this is about you and nobody else, you good. Because what happens is when we start worrying about everybody else, then we start spreading ourselves so thin. And then you spread yourself so thin, you can't even do what you need to do. You can't even focus. So I learned to use my calendar. I learned, like Taralyn says, Taralyn turns her phone off, throws it across the room or whatever. Now I know my telephone, it goes off on silence. So I don't even get the calls. At one time, I would see it and I'm like, okay, you start feeling like I need to pick it up, because sometimes when people call you, they need to talk to you right then. But at the same time, if you're not in the mental space to talk to them, you're no good to them anyway. So it's best to say, okay, I'm going to take this call in the morning. But again, when you start being in relationships with people, they know you. They know, well, she ain't blowing me off. We know she is trying to build a business, build a ministry, watch these babies, or do something.
Right.
And in between that, decompress, because people don't understand the value of self-care.
Yes.
They feel like, well, Chenda's not having an event. She's not doing this. She's not doing that. Okay, she could just be doing nothing, which is a part of what's necessary to continue to do the things that you're doing. So self-care has to fit into that. And to your point, Chenda, no one gets to tell you what to do with your time and whether or not that time should be used for your self-care versus their dump or whatever it is, or their cat stories or anything. So yeah, that's a really good point.
So it's good time. I value my time. And the older I get, it's like, you know what? You already up the hill, over the hill. So I need to get my sleep, or y'all gonna see me looking like I'm looking now.
glowing with your little braids done up in your crown quick.
I've been on Nana duty. And this is the thing. My body wasn't used to getting up early in the morning. I've been down in Texas since October. And I'm at my daughter and son-in-law's house at 8:30 in the morning. By 10 o'clock, my brain is like sleep time.
Right.
Sleep time. So I love this topic, and I'm glad I get to see y'all, because some days I'm trying to pop in and I'm thinking they're not seeing my comments. So I'm going in late at night looking and listening. So this is wonderful. Well, I'm glad y'all brought me on. I got to hang out with the big dogs. I
Fair
had
enough.
already shared it into two groups. I shared it in our private group, and I shared it in, I want to say, the online accessory or something. Richenda Pickens. So
Okay, I
All
got
right,
you.
all
I
right.
appreciate that. Thank
yes.
you. And as always, you're always welcome.
Well, I figured it out. I was y'all. If y'all was looking at me on this side, y'all would say, "Oh my gosh, she's really trying to get in on this right here."
Well, just like Richinda came up, if there's somebody else who would like to come up and share
Okay.
stories, questions, any
Okay.
comments, thank you.
Bye.
Appreciate
Thank you
God,
you.
thank you so
guys.
much, Chinda.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.
Very good points.
I was
Very good points.
trying to figure out how to remove, but I can't remember how to do that. It's all the tech stuff. My brain. Very, very good points. And you know,
Yeah,
I love what she says is she felt obligated. And it's about repurposing who you're obligated to, honestly. All right.
that part.
Who do I need to be obligated to? Do I need to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning with you on the phone? Like you know, and my phone goes on do not disturb. If you are not a starred contact, you do not get through. And then
Yeah.
if you are a starred contact like Taralyn, who doesn't know she's a starred contact, and she sends you a message at 2 o'clock in the morning.
2 or 3, and you was like, "What?" Well, I'm like, "What?" Well, I did not expect for you. I was like, "Oh God, tell Chastity, I'm sorry."
Yeah. Then I let you know, hey, you're a starred contact. Don't message me in between these hours. But because the thing is that the people who are starred contacts in my phone have a respect for my time.
Mhm.
The people who are not starred contacts in my phone, they may or may not have a respect for my time. And honestly, I'm not going to allocate the mental resources to figure out which one it is. I know the people who respect my time and that I respect their time. So, hey, if you can get through on Do Not Disturb, you can call me straight through and get through. Because if you're calling me at some hour in which I'm on Do Not Disturb, it's an hour of time that I know that you're calling me and it's something real, something that I wouldn't mind allocating time to. So that's I think that there are tools out there. There was one app that I seen that you could actually brick your phone for a certain amount of hours to where your
Oh,
phone was a brick. Like
wow.
not using a whole lot of power because you can't even get into it. Now, if you have an emergency, it's a brick.
Right, that part.
You better write a message on it and throw it because you ain't gonna make no calls.
Right.
But there's tools out there that can help us with removing the distractions, and I talk about this in the book. Those distraction activities that we just do to pass time, where there's no nutritional value to it. There's no substance. There's no growth. There's no anything that is worth the time that you're allocating or pouring into it. However, we engage with these activities, and we're all guilty of it. I'm sure I have plenty of distractions. My wife says I squirrel all the time, and I'm like, I squirrel all the time because I have a lot of thoughts going on in my head.
Yes.
Oh, thanks, Richenda. I appreciate it. Hopefully he enjoys it. He'll have to give me some feedback on it.
Oh, he will. This is gonna be good. I can't wait.
But I think about that premium that our time is, and in the sense of us being coaches and being able to charge a premium for our time.
Yeah.
And so when you go back to that concept of our time is our money, where I'm like, hey, look, I'm having this conversation with you for free, whether it's because of the relationship, love, or whatever it may be, my time still has the same premium as if I was charging a client for this time, whether it was doing coaching or developing curriculum or developing a plan. Like my time still has the premium on it. And I think what happens is sometimes we get in these situations where we give the homie hookup on time. We give the discount. Hey, slide me that box of chicken out the drive-through window. I know I only paid for the napkins, but slide me the box of chicken. Like we're giving our time at a discount. And this is what happens when you do this. Eventually people notice that your time's at a discount and they buy as much of it as they possibly can. One would think somebody would say, well, man, they giving their time at a discount. It must not be worth that much. I'm not going to mess with that time. Absolutely not. It's free. I want 24 hours, please.
Well, you know what? I love that you presented that in that way, because the people who will take and monopolize your time is because they don't have any value on their own time. If
Yes.
they did, they wouldn't have time to deal with your time because they're maximizing their time.
Exactly.
You know, so it one of those types of things when you get to a space where you choose to visualize your time and put value on it the same way you would when it comes to your money. Those of us who have decided, hey, I don't care what it is that I make, I want to make every penny count because I have things that I want to do with this money. Those of us who have taken the time to think of our money in that way, if you start to think of your time in that way, it also is going to help you see who's in your circle and
Mm.
who should remain there and who should not. Because people who are mindful of their time and they quantify their time, they understand what that means and they view other people's time the exact same way.
Right.
It's kind of like if you're financially responsible, the last thing you're doing is hanging around with a bunch of people who are not, because either you're taking care of them in order for them to be able to participate in the things that you want to participate in, or they're always coming to you as being their personal money reserve or their bank. And typically, folks who are not in that space in their life, they don't want that. They don't want that around them. But the only way that they would know that that's around them is once they started to get serious with their money, and then their life and everything starts to take shape around how serious they are and mature they are with their finances. Think about your time the exact same way. The same things will be revealed when you visualize your time like that, the same way it is when you start to quantify your time in terms of, I'm sorry, quantify the value of your money in that
Mm.
way.
Mm. Yeah, because I'm telling you right now, only person who knows my ATM pin is my wife.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Like, I'm not just giving my ATM card to random strangers. Hey, here's the pin. Go ahead and get whatever you need. No, 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 no. There's a premium on that, and I'm not trying to have you exhaust my resources before you even tap into yours. And so when you say people who don't value their time, they have yet to understand the premium that their time has.
She
So
said her husband don't know hers. I can't stand you. Can't stand her.
You so cold. Hey, I respect the game, though. I respect the game. You don't know why.
She's so crazy.
But
Oh Lord.
they will not have that premium and that perspective on their time, and that shows every time. Like you said, every time they come for your time, it's like, wait a minute, what's going on here with you always coming for my time?
Mm-hmm.
And there was a great analogy in which it was, I think it was on social media, where this lady took a cap and she took a bottle of water and she said, you this bottle of water, and this is who you trying to fill up, and you pour and pour and pour and pour and pour till you empty. And
Yes.
now when it comes time for that cap full of content to pour back into you're still pretty much empty because you've poured everything that you have out into a vessel that did not have the capacity. People who do not value their time don't have presently, not that they can't acquire it, but don't presently have the capacity to truly value the time of others.
Right.
And as much as I want to be like, well, maybe they can value my time and maybe they will value my time, even though they don't value their time. Yeah, no. Brother B. Gatewood and I, we were on the phone today, and he said, hey, yo, I got to get to a meeting. No problem, brother. Good luck on your meeting. I'll catch up with you later. Bye. Click. Not like, oh, one more thing. Oh, one more thing. Oh, another thing. You have business to handle. I respect that you have business to handle, because when I have business to handle, I'm handling my business. So if I say, hey, really quick, I can take this call. You got 60 seconds. Key points. What's up? Throw them at me. And then, hey, we're off because I got to go. All right. Get at you later. Bye. That is a respect of time that I can give him, because I respect that when it's my time and I need to get off the phone. Or if I don't have the time to answer the phone, hey, can't talk to you right now. I'll get back at you later. I never take it personal. And I think maybe this is something, I know we're almost at time, but this is something that we do as we envision how we may take somebody brushing us off, which really it's not a brush off, but how
I was just about to say that it's not a brush off. It's
right.
not at all. It's and I think that it all goes to the mindset of the individuals that you're dealing with,
Mm,
because this group that we're in, we get it. You know what I'm saying? We're all on the same thing, and it's never personal. It's too much love for that. We allow each other the space to do whatever it is that we need to do, and we know that as a community, we're all still going to be there for each other. I think that what it is a lot of the times is people's own personal stuff, but then again, too, the circles of relationships that they have that are not very genuine. And I could say that being a woman, because women specifically, I'm not saying this is not true for men, but I think that women are much more outward with it. I don't like groups where there's fun shade at all. There are so many relationships that are just toxic. They're just not real. But
mm,
that's the culture. We accept that as those being parts of healthy relationships. So because I see a lot of those different dynamics, a lot of those different feelings come from being a part of groups or having relationships with people that are not genuine.
right.
How can you know that Taralyn's not blowing you off if she just put you on display with some fun shade last week when we was all out for wine? You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Silly stuff like that. So I think it all speaks to the caliber of relationships, and the level of respect that people have, and not just some BS, some real authentic respect. That's why if Billy happens to be not available or Bruce is not available, nobody's in their feelings thinking, well, I wonder. No, no, because we have genuine relationships, we have genuine friendships. Nobody's ever being put on display. Somebody being put on display is not a joke, and it's not all of that weirdness that
Right.
people do and then call themselves friends now.
Right. BFFs.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So I think that that's a lot of it too. Really being clear about what it means to have a fruitful relationship. Are you putting the label of friend on people who are really just acquaintances?
Mm,
Don't throw around that friend word like that. You got to earn that. That takes some years. You
right.
know. So that's it. Understanding what's around you for yourself, knowing that words have meaning, and if you have people around you where the dynamic of your relationship is not fitting the title that you're giving them, then it's up to you to decide what you want around you, what serves the purpose that you're trying, the goal, whatever purpose you want it to serve, whatever goal you're trying to reach. Are these people around you supportive of that, mentally, emotionally, spiritually? I think these are the types of things that we have to think about, or we should
We
consider,
should.
not have to.
We
That
should
part.
consider. Snap you rubbing off on
We here, man.
it. These are things that we should consider, absolutely. And I'll close with this. I was having a conversation today. When you say words have meanings, words have definitions. I was having a conversation with JC today, and in our conversation, she was just kind of like, just expressing pride and happiness in the relationship that her and I have. And she says, my friend, the friend that you are to me just simply blows my mind, because you're such a high quality friend. And I know that you're a high quality friend, and I'm not even your best friend. Like, I tell people all the time, like, there's a reason why I'm very selective on who my friends are, because I know the type of friend that I am. Like, in a lot of my circles where people consider me their friend, they consider me their best friend. I know my best friend, her name is Jennifer. I know who she is. But in the other circles that I have, everybody considers Billy as their best friend. And so it is because I am willing to invest that time in that relationship. I'm willing to check in on you just to see how you're doing, not to bring, like agenda. I'm gonna have to use Mondays as my no trash pickup day. But
it's been that way for years.
right. But to be able to have access to me to where there are certain investments that I will drop what I'm doing to help, where I will drop what I may want to do in order to do what I didn't plan on doing. But that's the type of friend that I am. That is not the type of acquaintance that I am. I can tell you right now, that is definitely not the type of acquaintance that I am. That's even in some cases not the type of employee that I am.
Yep.
Where it's like, wait, you want me to? Don't get me wrong. I'll answer my phone. It might help if I feel like I'm in that space to help. But if I'm not, and work calls, work will still be there tomorrow. Work will still be there on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not gonna have me miss like my child's recital to answer a work call. Nah, y'all, I call y'all back after this recital's over.
They're having those boundaries.
So for me, that's my closing thought, is really understand, and it resonates with what you said. Understand what the definitions of the words are that you're sending out there, because though everybody else's interpretation may be different than yours, you know what you mean when you say it.
Yep.
So try to use the proper terminology that everybody can get on board with. Oh, that's my friend. That's my friend. Mm-mm. Yeah, I know them. Like that. That's what you'll get sometimes. Yeah, I know them, but I don't know them like that.
I'm aware they exist.
Right. That'd be all you get. And they'd be like, well, what do you think? Blink, blink, blink. I told you I know them. That's it.
I don't.
That's all I know. That's all that I know, is that I know that person that you're speaking of.
No predicate.
Right. I'm gonna start using that.
And they waiting for the rest. No predicate.
Yeah, sorry.
That
was a complete sentence. What do you have as your closing thoughts?
Closing thought is just to what you said, boundaries. If you understand the definition of your words, then the boundaries that you put up, your actions are going to align with that. If everybody is not truly a friend, don't call them that, then you won't act like that. I think sometimes we put the wrong labels on people and situations when it comes to our time, and then we're acting according to the label, knowing that the person who we're talking about doesn't fit the label. And then we're upset when they start acting like they don't fit the label. Well, duh. So
never did.
that part. But I think that's so very important. Our time really is at a premium, and you first and foremost should be the person who gets the very best of your time, because we never know the day in which it's going to be up.
Absolutely. Ooh, that shot clock. All right. Well, as always, at the end of the show, we got a couple of coaches' tools that I would love to share. And I didn't. It's funny. I'll tell you later about why it says tool. But anyway,
I know why.
I know why too, because we've been sitting on a show that said Wednesday word, take your time this entire time. But we ain't gonna talk about that.
Nobody know about that.
It's been a day. Anyway, from the coach's playbook, the tools from this conversation, takeaways that I have documented are: create a visual representation of your time. Taralyn, that was like out the gate, gas. Just, man, if you look at your time like money, look at it like a budget.
There it is.
You can try to keep your budget in your head if you want to. You might go bankrupt because we're not good at keeping track of numbers like that. But create a visual representation of your time, something that you can look at and see where your time is going to, see where your leaks are, see where your distractions are, see where your sleep is, see where your healthy activities are, see where your self-care is. Create a visual representation of your time. I think that is a great tool. And then tool number 2 is stop placing yourself on standby.
Yes.
Look, I hate to say ain't, but we ain't flights.
That part.
So people can't just put you on standby and maybe get a seat. Like, that's our lives were not intended for us to be at the mercy of an electronic device the size of the palm of our hand 24/7. It just was not meant to be that. I will tell you, when 9/11 happened, I was exhausted from working. Plenty of people called me and told me 9/11 was happening, but I was asleep. And then when I woke up, 9/11 was still there.
Still happening. Right.
So again, stop placing yourself on standby. You are numero uno. Put yourself first. And then tool number 3 is acknowledge the premium your time has. Our time has a premium. Think about if you made $100 an hour. Shoot, let's think about if you made $100 a minute. How many minutes would you give to the person you are talking to before you say, hey, yo, I gotta go. You've cost me $5,000. I gotta go.
You're right.
I gotta go. Sorry, this has been a 50-minute conversation. I gotta go. That was $5,000 that I could have made, and not in the sense of monetary. I don't necessarily want to say the premium is necessarily monetary, but the premium on our time truly is attached to the fact that our time is finite. And in the natural order of supply and demand, I have a finite resource with an abundance of demand. That's what creates the premium on our time, and we don't know how long we're going to be here. And then, just for the extra, I put a challenge here because Taralyn also came through with challenging you. I'm going to try this. I can't do it tomorrow. I had to check because I already got things like Richinda said. I keep a calendar. I already know what's on my calendar.
Right.
But I'm going to figure out what day next week that I can't do it next week. I'm not time. But I'm going to figure out a day.
Set a day.
Where I can mark how many times I touched my phone. And I'm going to also put an additional challenge to that. If I touch my phone more than, let's say 50 times, because I think I touch my phone quite a bit. So if I touch my phone more than 50 times, the next day I'm going to turn it off and not turn it on until the following day.
Oh, that's big.
And that is big because I use my phone for music when I'm at the gym. So that means I might be at the gym on some.
That's going to be huge.
So
mind your wife. I can hear it now, boy. Ooh, I can hear it.
So that's what we have for you guys today. It has been a pleasure. I always love our vibe on Tuesdays. Tuesdays are a really good day. If you have not caught any of our other content, you can catch me tomorrow live on the First Row for the Wednesday Word, which you have seen a preview to the title of the Wednesday Word, not that it was the Wednesday Word. But you can catch me on Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is a great segment. It's only a 30-minute segment where I share ideas, concepts, and things that I think about deeply, and tools, because that's what you see tonight as well, or the tools. And then also on Fridays, let me tell you, this is the grind to find. If you ain't catching, first off, not only is your content fire, your musical interludes are fire too. So let me tell y'all, if y'all have not watched the episode of The Grind to Find yet, they are Fridays at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at thegrindtofind.com or wherever you prefer to listen to your podcasts at. But man, Taralyn, if you like what Taralyn does on Taralyn Michelle Live, you got to go to The Grind to Find. Her interviewing aptitude is phenomenal. And then next Tuesday, I will not be available to do a Taralyn Michelle and Billy Wroe Live. It will be the Tuesday that we do not have a Taralyn Michelle and Billy Wroe Live. But the following Tuesday, we're going to do a Taralyn Michelle, Billy Wroe Live panel. So stay tuned. These panels are fun, but they are funny.
Yes, that's going to be the 13th. So we'll be back on September 13th.
September 13th. Got it. September 13th will be that date for that. And then if you have not done so yet, go to firstrow.com, get your copy of Fire Your Job, Hire Your Passion, and the Fire Your Job, Hire Your Passion journal. Let me tell you, we were talking about time allocation in that, and there's a tool in that journal to look at how your time is allocated. I ain't gonna say anything else about it, but if you don't have the journal, you might want to go and get the journal. And if you don't have the book, you might want to get the book and the journal. So head over to firstrow.com, get your copy, your copy of Fire Your Job, Hire Your Passion. And then other than that, I think that's all we got until
you made up for scurrying on in here, running amok like how you did. Yeah, you made up for it. You good.
I appreciate it. I got us a couple more shows, y'all. I got us a couple more on the books. So other than that, I thank you guys for tuning in live. As always, if you like this show, share it. If you share it, like it. We love engaging you in the live chat, as you can see. Don't be shy. Come up on stage. And if not, if you're watching via the replay, we don't mind engaging you with you in the comments as well. So until the next time, one love, peace, and God bless.
Peace.